We have a special guest today with us. He's a cell biology researcher at University of South Carolina, and he's also a founder of PranaScience Institute. And today we are going to learn a lot about the fusion of modern and the ancient medicine.
I would first say that the breathing exercises should be an adjunct. It increases salivary nerve growth factor. So nerve growth factor is one of the neurotropins. There are 18 siddhas. So there are 18 enlightened masters, but there are so many of them. They're disciples.
How do we solve compliance in patients?
The compliance is very, very important for continuous, building a routine in the healthcare environment. We have lots and lots of burnout among physicians, nurses, and other staff. You are not a Vada person from your birth to death. There's a saying in the Siddha tradition, if you bring 1,000 roots, you are half a doctor.
Namaste, Dr. Balasubramanian. It's a pleasure to host you. And we have a special guest today with us here who has been working on combining our ancient medicine with the modern medicine. He's a cell biology researcher at University of South Carolina, and he's also a founder of PranaScience Institute. And he has been doing public speaking on these topics since a long time, I think 10 to 15 years. And today we are going to learn a lot about the fusion of modern and the ancient medicine.
So Thank Dr. Balasubramanian, thank you, Aditya, for having me. It's a great pleasure to meet with you and your wonderful audience. I look forward to speaking with you.
Okay, perfect. So I wanted to get straight on the topic I wanted to ask you on what kind of research are you working at South Carolina right now?
So I'm at the Medical University of South Carolina, which is a little bit different from University of South Carolina. So we are like 100 miles away. University of South Carolina is in Columbia, and we are in Charleston, South Carolina. So in fact, Medical University of South Carolina was started 200 years ago. Right here in Charleston as a medical college. Now it's a large medical system, academic medical system in the state. So we have a lot of specialties, more than 30,000. Don't quote me on the numbers of employees right here in Charleston. So we have a larger network of also like a rural health network, which is spreading, serving across the state. Anyways, so the research that I'm doing is mainly conducted. I'm at the Department of Radiation Medicine. So it was radiation oncology before. We recently changed the name to radiation medicine because of the use of radiation in many different areas of biology or medicine rather than just oncology alone. Our research is mainly focusing on how we can understand the breathing exercises. So the regulated breathing is in all the traditions, cultures throughout the world, and in the yoga tradition, we call it as pranayama. So I am trained in the yoga tradition, so a lot of my techniques would adopt things from the pranayama, specifically from the Siddha tradition. I'm from Tamil Nadu, so my family is a Siddha medical practitioner family. So I take a lot of things from the Siddha tradition and how pranayama works in the body. What are the molecular mechanisms? What are the cellular mechanisms maybe in the future, right? And how we can use that in clinical settings and how we can disseminate the practice. So 3 arms. Now, understanding the mechanisms, bringing it to the clinics, and then testing it, whether it is useful or not, how far it is, and then bringing the practice to the general audience and train the other future scientists and trainers.
That's really amazing, and that is the kind of work that even I look forward to going forward. But can you explain these things with examples on what your research is about? How, like, what is the work that you found, the mechanism, and then how did it affect the cell biology, and how do you measure the outcomes for the patients?
This goes back to my childhood probably. So I was growing up learning yoga and different practices from the Siddha tradition, including breathing exercises, and also like a lot of our family has a strong practice and link in herbal medicine and Siddha preparations. We use a lot of different preparations, like very sophisticated preparations from the Siddha tradition. But I have a strong interest in understanding the chemistry behind those preparations and how things are made. So calcium nanoparticles, or even how do they make mercury less toxic to the body? How are they, kind of making this different types of patpam, which is also like a kind of it's similar to nanoparticles that we understand here in modern science. So even though my interest is in that area, when I moved to the US, I'm not able to practice those type of medicines because of the regulations here. But rather, I kind of moved into other aspects like lifestyle practices. So how can I use breathing exercises? This came from one of the prominent books in the Siddha tradition called Tirumantiram. I can send you those or put those in the, you can put it in the chat or underneath. So Tirumantiram is one of the prominent books in the Siddha tradition, which has 3,000 poems written by Saint Tirumular. So Saint Tirumular and seven other disciples, totally 8 disciples, are including Saint Patanjali, were the disciples of Master Nandi. So Nandi had 8 disciples. Two of them are prominent, Patanjali and Tirumular. Tirumular wrote, you probably know, Patanjali wrote Yoga Sutra, Tirumular wrote Tirumantiram, and other books too. So in the Tirumantiram, there are chapters, so many different, let's not go into detail. It's too much, right? So Tirumantiram talks about one specific breathing practice on the inhalation, holding, exhalation, timing, nostril. So I was practicing that, and then I found salivation inside my body. So salivation, as you can easily relate to the parasympathetic activation or the relaxation response, and it can improve so many different fluid or the water channels, opens water channels in the body. Aquaporin channels are opened in response to parasympathetic. So you have salivation, lacrimation, urination, digestion, defecation, lactation. Everything that is associated with the opening of those water channels is activated through the parasympathetic. So that's where I got the connection. So when I do this exercise, there is an increase in salivary stimulation. So now we know saliva is not just a digestive fluid. It has so many different molecules, neurohormones, proteins, peptides, lipids, you name it. You have all kinds of molecules in the saliva. So we wanted to test that. That's where we started our research in 2013, looking at in 2 groups, looking at the impact of pranayama, and this specifically, this we call Tirumular pranayama, on salivary stimulation of various molecules. So we would administer the exercise for this group, and then also attention control group. You had to have 2 groups to compare, right? So after the exercise, or during the exercise, would collect saliva from 0 to 20 minutes every 5 minutes. And when we look at the salivary principles, we use different methods like the multiplex ELISA or mass spectrometry, or single ELISA too. So we looked all these, we used all these techniques to understand the molecular changes in this practice. So let me summarize what we found. So the number one was that it increases salivary nerve growth factor. So nerve growth factor is one of the neurotropins that family of 4, and NGF is very important in the basal forebrain complex neurons and other neurons, especially in Alzheimer's. So it's needed for the total central nervous system or the peripheral nervous system, and its role is prominently discovered or being discovered in Alzheimer's, or understood. It's because the lower amount of nerve growth factor would induce atrophy in those BFC neurons, and then leads to memory issues in Alzheimer's. So this could be very well applicable to other parts of the body and other neurons too. So it's a strong survival factor. NGF, after it binds to its receptor, it induces a strong survival signaling to the neurons. So that signaling is important for the growth and survival, and also for the plasticity, right? That's our first discovery. Then we also showed that there are so many other molecules, like the different types of mucosal immunoglobulins, like types of IgA, IgM, different chains of immunoglobulin G also. So this kind of gives you an idea that the mucosal immune system is kind of fortified or strengthened with the practice. And we also showed in the saliva, you will be able to stimulate things like the tumor suppressors, different types of tumor suppressors, which are some of them are part of the salivary agglutinin family. It's a larger gene with large protein product, which can be clipped by enzymes that we again stimulate in saliva. So those enzymes create a lot of smaller peptides that has very interesting cardiovascular, functions. Some of them are vasodilatory. So it's very interesting to see the combination of the enzymes, the proteins that are expressed, and their products, and how they will be, taken to different regions of the body, right? Because saliva is, I'll come to that later again. And then the third type of molecules that we found was that a reduction in cytokines, different types of interleukins, IL-1 beta, IL-8, MCP, monocyte chemotactic protein 1, and several other proteins that are cytokines that would be diminished or reduced in the saliva. So you have a situation in the salivary compartment that you stimulate some chemicals that would be useful for the nervous system, the immune system, maybe for tumor suppression, and for inflammation reduction, right? So this all is happening just as we noticed in the saliva. It could very well happen in other parts of the body. And saliva is also very interesting compartment where you can take things to different regions, like you have sublingual absorption to take into the circulation, have retrograde axonal transport to take to the central nervous system, transcytosis, and it can even as a VAB, kind of you will be able to inhale that. Aerosols can be inhaled to the lungs. So it can impact many systems in the body, and there are transport mechanisms established for other molecules. Of course, we didn't study that yet, but that's our goal. Like, what are the molecules that are being produced? So we tested that later in another clinical condition also. So we are constantly working on the understanding the molecules, and how on top of that we are working on other areas. Like, okay, we have so many exercises, and especially in the Siddha tradition is there are 18 Siddhas. So there are 18 enlightened masters, but there are so many of them. Their disciples. You will see, you go to some hill station in Tamil Nadu, you will find, okay, there used to be a Siddha here, right? This is his Jiva Samadhi. People say that. And there are so many masters. Even until recently, there are people who are very prominent in that field. So basically, that there are so many techniques. That's what I mean. And these techniques can be understood, practiced, understood, and it can be taken to people that are in need. So we are taking, since I'm in radiation oncology, I'm considering the cancer as the primary population. That's where we are doing a lot of clinical trials right now.
Okay. So that's amazing how you explained in a simple way that and all the body fluids, I also believe in the same thing, that all the body fluids are part of our body. If there is a change in blood, the change shows up in saliva and it percolates in every area of our part. That's a very interesting way of looking at it. I never thought about it, but this is amazing. But now I have this question, that you said all these different kind of changes happen, but now on a practical level, when we deal with cancer patients, we see these amazing transformations in saliva and everywhere, but how does it impact the health of these cancer patients that you are looking at?
Health means physical, mental, spiritual.
No, yeah, so I think health defines everything, I think because WHO also says physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, we want to make sure of that. So in that way.
Yeah. So, breathing is very interesting in that way, right? Just like saliva combines so many different compartments.
Yeah.
Breathing is also very central in terms of combining the physical health and the mental health, right? So this is something that we always hear, like, okay, your breathing is a bridge between the mind and body, right? It's that's how we take it. It is very important to teach these exercises rather than asking them to do yoga, right? So yoga is great, physical, right? How many cancer patients are able to do hard physical practices, right? Especially during cancer treatment. So what we did was that we provide these exercises in two, I would say, let's take two scenarios. One is during treatment, say that it's a chemo surgery or their radiation treatment. People stay at a space, right? So it's a facility where they're staying and taking care of their treatment on a daily basis or frequently. And then, so in that situation, we have a caregiver, we have the patient. So we went to that specific home or lodge and taught the exercises. So collected the information from them about the practice, the satisfaction. If you think about the South Carolina, we have a large rural population. So we also have like our poverty is higher than the national average. The household income is lower than average national. We also have larger African American population than the national average. So there is a strong need for people who are from the rural areas. They don't have the tertiary cancer centers, so they will have to travel several miles, right, to come to the state to this place. So here we have we also have to know that those people might not have known what yoga is, what pranayama is. And sometimes people ask me like which country I'm from, like, because people do not know that the problems there are so many people who have not gone on a plane, right? So it's very interesting. Like the people are like what you will probably see in India too, right? So it's um, what I want to say is that people are new to the practice, and we wanted to test the acceptability. Are they able to accept it? Are they able to practice it? Are they able to see the benefits of it? So these are the topics that we considered first, because before even just because the belief system is also very different. Like as soon as they see that someone is doing this, they think it's a practice of a different religion. But I always tell them, like, this is not what our forefathers or the siddhas or the saints said. Like they say, every being is sane.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a saying in Tamil, even Abdul Kalam, he used to talk about this in the UN. Yadum ure, yavarum keli. Like every place is unique. It's like your place. Every place is special in its own way. And everyone is your relative. Everyone throughout the nation, throughout the world, right? And even further, in Tirukural, in one of the prominent Tamil literatures, பிறப்புக்கும் எல்லா உயிர்க்கும், which means like the birth is equal for all beings, not humans, all beings. Even if you take a bird or a squirrel, that's similar to me, right? That's how we see the world, right? But people will have different ideas about different religions and things like that. So we wanted to see how if they are able to accept these practices, able to practice it, find benefit. So when our results published in two quality improvement papers in 2023 and 24, I talk about how the exercises were acceptable by 82 people. So 82 or 84. So it's basically people are accepting it. They're finding benefit. They want to practice when they return home, and it improves their mood, relaxation. It helps them with appetite or maybe some pain scores. So this not score. These are not standardized scales. These are quality improvement paper, measures. So basically, they were expressing that these are all the things that they can experience with these exercises. So we wanted to continue that further in a larger scale, which we are working on right now. So the other thing is like just in post treatment. So cancer survivorship begins as soon as cancer diagnosis is done, right? So it is not just post treatment. So in this case, what we did was after radiation treatment in breast cancer patients, we started a 12-week pranayama practice intervention along with control mindfulness. What we showed was that it reduces the depression and anxiety in people, the breathing exercises. So it's a mental health. And it also showed, we haven't yet published that paper, we also showed that there is a level of changes, so many changes in the cytokines in the saliva. So it's which are very twerk probably blinked, right? So this is the changes in the saliva and those cancer patients is also very interesting and important. That's what we are looking at. So it can impact their physical and mental health. And we also bring some social component, like in the setting where they are staying, or when we provide the intervention, we bring them in a group, so that also improves their overall social well-being also. And spiritual well-being is purely their personal, and they can use and these techniques are very tailorable. Like they don't have to chant any specific thing. Like internally they can chant anything that they like. Their religion, their belief system can be incorporated. That's why it's very tailorable, and it can be used for spiritual.
Okay, so what I made of this from this answer is that we are helping them in a very holistic way with the breathing techniques, and it helps them make their life better, more likable, or it helps them in reducing in suffering in some kind of way. So that covers the wellness part. But I really want to ask you, I have three layered question from this. That first, there is this problem of compliance. So how do we solve compliance in patients? Because I think it is the most difficult to change even the behavior in ourselves. How do we induce change in behavior in someone else? So first question is that. Next is that the treatment, like we see this as an adjuvant or a you know as a therapy which helps the patient in wellness or dealing with all the side effects and everything. We are looking at that perspective. But now, with the tradition that we come from, and you mention about all these siddhas and everything, then do we have a way to look at these things as treatment? Do we have some ways of treating the patients and which directly impact the tumor size or directly impacts substantial physical health result, which can be used as a replacement to the current modern medicine techniques, and which are failing at a lot of level because we are not curing cancer, we are just delaying it for people. And with so many things like I read about Louis Hay, then there is The Secret, where people have gotten spontaneous resolution of cancer. How is it possible? Do we have ways to study it and see the outcomes? So I think if you can
What's the
answer
third
this.
one? What's the third one?
So,
First you talked about compliance, and then
compliance, yeah, compliance. Then if we have these treatments where we can focus directly on reducing the tumor size, or with, and how do we study those things into actual scientific study and replace or maybe use that as an alternative to the current medicines or radiation therapies that we have.
okay. So number one, I'll do it in a random manner. Like I can do that in line also, but given the importance, I'm taking some important questions that you posed first. Like number one, breathing exercise should be an adjunct. It cannot replace, or it cannot be an alternate to traditional or evidence-based standard of care practices, right? So I would first say that the breathing exercises should be an adjunct, or it cannot replace the current practice, right? So
Okay.
it's whether they have to take chemo or radiation or surgery, any type of medicine that is known to help patients or reduce the tumor size, right? Those are the things that they have to take care first, and then use these as adjunct.
Okay.
There are so many things going around in especially in cancer, right? Both in health and wellness, there's a lot of things create noise, right? But I would always encourage people to follow what is evidenced in, especially in the recent medical literature. If it is evidence based, if it is being suggested by the trained clinical team, follow that, right? Other than that, we will not have. There are people buying supplements for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. A small bottle of maybe a moringa capsule, they buy it for $60, $80. Like it's a financial toxicity. That's what people don't understand. Like it may be working. I don't know, but it is not the sole way of kind of treating a person. Like you cannot just give moringa and mushrooms and then say it's working. We don't have evidence. Like what number one, those preparations are not standardized, right? So you
That's true.
see the pharmacopoeia, right? In the Siddha pharmacopoeia, you have, even if you make it today, is that going to be the same way that the Siddhas made it? Because you have changed so many components in nature right now.
Yeah.
The philanthus plant that I collect from one place versus the other, morning versus evening, winter versus spring, it's going to be totally different. And then standardization is very, very strict. That's why our ancient system was very, very methodical. They did it in a manner that was reproducible. We lost that technique. And now we make all these different preparations and expect the same result that was made thousands of years ago, which we will not be able to be sure and reproducible. That's what. But here,
Okay.
if you make that specific immunotherapy, Keytruda, so it's going to be exactly the same. Maybe there may be some, even within that batch, it's going to be the same, right?
Okay.
So it is very important to have that reproducibility. And then you have to follow the standard of care practices. That's number one. That is very important. And you cannot, even if you think about the National Institutes of Health, it used to call the institute like National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine. So it was giving an idea that there are certain things that can be complementary and alternative, but they changed the name to bring a holistic approach, that National Institute of Complementary and Integrative Health. So it has an integration. So you have to have the what we call the English medicine. We had to use our lifestyle practices, changes in behavior, changes in our using other types of treatments, right? So then you can add other things depending upon your need and depending upon what evidence is being generated. That's one of the first reasons why we started this research. Like, we have to generate evidence. We know that for hundreds of years we know pranayama works, but it is not on the paper.
Yeah.
It's in the mind, not on the paper. So we had to put it on the paper. That's what we are working on right now, right? And so the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health is bringing that everything together. This is not a new idea. Like, integrative health is not a new idea. There's a Tirukural, it's under the chapter medicine, like how medicine is defined in the Tirukural in 10 poems, 10 couplets. One of them talks about உற்றவன் தீர்ப்பான் மருந்து உழைச்செல்வான் என்று அப்பால் நாற்கூற்றே மருந்து. What are the four pillars of medicine? The patient, the doctor, medicine, and the support system, who's either caregiver, society. All four are pillars. Like, if the patient has to think that my disease is curable, the doctor has to give the right thing, the medicine has to work, it has to be the right preparation, and there should be a support system. So all these four pillars are important in medicine. that is very very nicely put. Like, this is an integrative practice. So
Yeah.
not just the medicine alone, not just the doctor alone. So that in that sense, supplement alone is not a medicine, right? That's number one. Number two, that the compliance, right? So the compliance is a big problem. Like, people always think that, oh, when you go to India, everyone is sitting here in the morning and doing this. No. So nobody, like, if you take my village, right now we are starting a class, and it's going on in my house in the as a kind of small school. But when I grew up, the practice is not out there. It's secluded in some small areas, families, or some schools. So that's how it is, like, kind of in pockets. So now the compliance is very, very important for continuous, like, building a routine, or keeping that kind of a training. That it is very important to keep on training. Even the meditation has to be continuously practiced for changes in your brain structure, right, function. And that's why we are incorporating some of those compliance measures in our research, like how people use practice diaries, how people use their watches or apps to include those practices, and how we can measure the practice time, like the dose, how many. So we ask them to practice 3 times a day, 10 minutes each. But Tirumular says you have to practice 3 times a day, 24 minutes each. So Narigai Sadika Vaikum Uyirnila. You have to practice 24 minutes. That's what he says. But we don't practice it that long. So that's why one of my classes, the morning class, is for 24 minutes. So it's a 30 minutes class. I give some instructions for the first 4 minutes. We do 24 minutes practice, end with some 2 minutes, and conclusion. So I dedicate that only for the practice of 24 minutes in the morning. And I expect them to do 24 minutes during the day. Even I cannot do it. Whenever I have the classes, I have other things, I consider that I miss my practice. But I do meditate a lot, I do chanting a lot, so I consider them as my practices, but not necessarily sitting down for 24 minutes in a stretch. But I want to do, I kind of keep it as a way of improving compliances by social means, by accountability. How do you come together as a group and then tell each other, okay, we have a walking club, right? So on a WhatsApp group, there will be a message going out yesterday, hey, we are walking at 7 o'clock, right? So it's like, if some people won't even walk the whole week, they won't walk, right? So this is the only opportunity for them. So you create that situation, or a support network, so people will be compliant more.
That's true.
Yeah, that is a fair way of looking at things, that you have to somehow make your environment such that it supports everything that you want to do. That would be ideal. I think also when you are teaching someone about these practices, it makes you accountable for that. So that's an amazing way of looking at it.
Very interestingly, like, every time that I teach, something new pops up. So that's why I say, like, even though I'm doing the same technique, but it is not like any other class before. I may be saying something new. So every question has a newer way of answering. I probably answered the same questions 100 times before, but this is different.
Of course. Yes, this is special. So now I have this question regarding that. As you mentioned, that right now it is not on paper, everything is still in the air, in the mind. But now we have started working on these evidence. We are creating evidence so that it supports our ancient techniques. So what do you think are some areas that someone who is trying to get into these researches, how can they get themselves into it, or what are the areas that they should focus on specifically to get better outcomes?
Yeah, so for the trainees, right? Specifically for trainees, I would say, like, go to any place where there are fellowship opportunities or the research opportunities in integrative medicine.
Okay.
Right. We have a lot of medical students coming through, research students coming through the lab to take part in many different projects that we are running. And there are integrative medicine programs in different institutions or universities throughout the US. There are very good, opportunities in those places, either to join their medical team, or you sometimes, like, the residents have time for their elective research,
Yeah.
and you can work with anyone in there, like in our place there are people who are interested in doing what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So they can come to our lab, take part during that elective time, or a medical student during their flex research time. They can come there. There are students who stay longer, and then out of their interest they will dedicate more time to do the research, publish a paper which will be good for your residency and or your later career. Like, you can build, there are so many institutions now looking at integrative health or health and wellness.
Yes.
We MUSC has a new chief wellness officer now. You
Okay.
probably heard of CEO. Now every institution is trying to improve wellness. So I
Yeah.
go to speak, many different companies where about wellness, about
Okay.
breathing right. So it's a employee wellness is a key aspect. Mental health, thinking about burnout, especially in the healthcare environment.
Oh.
We have lots and lots of burnout among physicians, nurses, and other staff, right? So how do we improve their wellness? Of course, resources are the first and foremost thing. Like, if you just go to them and then say, do you have 2 minutes to breathe? No, they are busy, right? So, but how do they kind of use these, yeah, apart from resources, when they have some time, how do they use that time efficiently to do some of these practices, take care of themselves? And that's why the wellness is another area that they can look into. Okay. Mostly if you are trained in integrative medicine, you will be able to get into those type of positions later. Our research in this area, like, you can take many diseases, many rheumatic diseases or autoimmune diseases. Think about aging. Aging is a huge field where this could be very much applicable. Cancer and neurological disorders. So all these major areas will use some of these methods very efficiently. And even if you look into the pediatric population, like the cardiovascular or even the cancer, right? So they and their caregivers, they go through a lot of emotional distress, right? They can be treated or helped with these practices. There are students working on in that area too. So basically, you start somewhere with in your system, or you can find something that is passionate, that you're passionate about, and then create a project for you, because this field is very new, and you can create a lot of new projects, and help is out there. And you feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to kind of chat with people, help with their project, advise them on their overall scheme, and then guide them or be part of the. There are PhD students where I can be part of their mentor committee, right? So the doctoral advisory committee, we can design projects, we can run some of those projects, clinical trials, how to design it. So these are all the things that are needed in this area. And it is, the field is open, and people should be able to jump in. So when you think about the kind of creating these practices, or bringing more evidence, like, for example, the American Society of Clinical Oncologists combined with the Society for Integrative Oncology, ASCO SIO, they brought together a guideline. So the guidelines for clinical guidelines is updated for every field, right? So this guideline is specifically talking about what is the evidence out there from the prior research, and what's the research, what's the evidence out there for yoga, including pranayama and meditation, for many different conditions. But what they found was that we have evidence, second grade evidence, not first grade, second grade evidence only in breast cancer for depression and anxiety. That's the level of evidence that we have. So now think about other cancers. Like, do we have anything with the glioblastoma? Right? No. So There was another thing that so this is where the area is kind of expanding. People can easily find a niche and then follow into that, right? We have some very interesting newer projects going on. Like so the pranayama, these practices, are they only adjunct? Are they only useful to kind of provide some mental health, some level of maybe extra help? No, it could be a powerful way to improve treatment delivery. That's what we are studying.
Okay.
So how can you improve treatment of say, for example, radiation therapy?
Okay.
Right? So you can use breathing exercises. Say people are going through radiation therapy for the gamma knife procedure, and they are on the table with a lot of stress, and you can calm them by breathing exercises. There are other things that we are working on. We are not ready to share them yet, but there are much more advanced ways in which we will be able to improve treatment delivery in many different areas. Like think about surgery, before, after surgery. We can use these exercises to reduce. Mostly patients talk about anxiety. Anxiety is the major thing as soon as the diagnosis comes in, right?
Yeah.
And how do we this the best anxiolytic thing after pharmacotherapy is breathing. Breathing can throw things away out of your mind, right? Like anything that blocks. There's a beautiful poem by one sitter, Sivavakya. So where do you keep your desires? Where do you store your miseries? They're all stored in your breath. So, you know how we breathe like heavily when we are stressed out and burdened, right? The burden stays in the breath. That's what it is, right? So you can ease the burden through easing the breath. Very simple. And then the way to control the mind, Thirumular again talks about it in a very nice poem that it is a horse that carries your mind. That horse is the breath. Like if you control the horse, the carrier or the rider also is controlled. It's a beautiful way to approach it, and I always tell people that this is an easy to practice thing and very effective. But all you need is time. Air is free. There is no need for you to spend money for like supplements, right? So this is free. People should come forward to tap the potential.
Yeah.
And it's also in the younger generation's responsibility to learn it, take it forward, research it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And the technique you think that it may be working for me, inducing saliva in me, not in another person, maybe not that technique, not at that time. Try it another technique, another time, another technique. There are so many different ways in which we can stimulate.
No, that is definitely true and very insightful. But as we speak about it, I am really curious. Before I let you go, I really want to know that, as you mentioned, that your family, since your lineage has been into these Ayurvedic practices and how
Siddha practices, but
you also mentioned in your TED talk that your grandfather or someone would just look at the pulse of someone and they would tell them or question them about their health and they would give them some kind of medications. So what was that about? I mean, you say that the technique is lost, but it is not lost if you know some things about it. So can you please tell us about that and how it works?
Yeah, people do use the nadis, right? So Vata, Pitta, Kapha nadis, right? So these are rhythms in our body. So these rhythms have to be constantly studied, understood. And back then, people know the person, other person, for quite a long time, and they know the type of person, their job, their background, and probably their family history. So it is easy for them to bring so many different things. It is not just the pulse alone. I would say that it's not the pulse alone. There are many different, now there are techniques. People have in India, people have discovered the Nadi Sodhana meters, or I don't know the exact name, but there are some research going on. And there is also like some kind of you're a Vata person, Pitta person, Kapha person. I have a lot of skepticisms around that. to be open, because
Okay.
you are not a Vada person from your birth to death. Like you're changing constantly. You're changing within a day. There are rhythms. Ultradian rhythms are changing within the day. Circadian rhythms, right? So you have rhythm on the seasons. So many things are happening in a dynamic way, in which is being impacted by so many things that we cannot even measure. And in that respect, so just analyzing the pulse and telling them, diagnosing certain major things is not possible. But what they can say is that what they have been doing is that they take all of these into account in a way that we do not understand. They did in front of my eyes. Like my uncle would say, okay, so is that stomach pain, right? So they'll say, yeah. Yeah, so they probably will see the person, their eyes, the way they walked into the clinic, and they probably know that this is okay. This is the moon phase time. Probably the something else is going on. So they have so many different things. Or probably they went to the same dinner the day before in the same village, and they probably heard from other people like that there was some stomach ache going on, right?
Okay.
So many different things that you had to combine in the diagnosis. Like here, you're not just taking a look at MRI and then say, hey, this is the problem. No, you have so many different alternate tests and everything, right? In the same way, we have in the Siddha system, you have Nirkuri, Neikuri, and different types of like how's the tongue, how's the eyes, and then the pulse, right? It's not the pulse alone. It's not that's what I wanted to mention. But this technique is out there. People can diagnose things from many of these symptoms, and then the behaviors, right? So, and then science. That is what is something very interesting. People still do it. People still do that in the Siddha system. It cannot be sensed just by a machine that reads your pulse. That's what I wanted to mention.
Fair. Yeah. I think that's completely fair. And people often, those people who know these techniques, they would often dismiss it as, I just get a feeling. But it is really difficult to explain, as you said, that it's about a lot of different things which you don't even know, are looking at consciously or subconsciously. Maybe even they don't know. But how can one develop these things if we put it in that way, that what is the way to develop it, and do you have those skills or not? I want to ask you that.
That's it.
I cannot read pulse. Honestly, I cannot read pulse.
Okay.
I try to learn it from my uncle, and then I would make a lot of mistakes. That was when I was like 14, 16, something like that. And then went to college, I kind of lost that ability, but lost that touch to learn, or
Okay.
ability to learn. And I really want to, kind of insist that there are people who are doing it, and it is like any other discipline. Like you become a doctor, how many years of education you had, right? It's in the same way. So you have to, it is education, long-term practice. There's a saying that if you can identify, if you can bring 1,000 roots, different roots, like you take two roots, can you identify them, distinguish them? There's a saying in the Siddha tradition, if you bring 1,000 roots, you are half a doctor.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can then imagine how much experience you have to have, how much education that you have to get about the different types of plants, different roots, and their seasons, their ability to cure diseases. It's a lifelong learning. It's not just a diploma or degree that you get and then say, hey, I'm a Siddha doctor. No.
That's
Yeah, that's not possible. But yeah, it's a constant process, and I hope everyone on this journey is constantly learning. I'm sure you also feel the same, that you want to learn and you want to do new things.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, whatever we know, kattradu kaimannalavu, they say, like whatever you learned, like whoever may be the scholar, what you learned is a handful of sand.
That's true.
The one that you don't know is like about the size of the earth.
That's completely fair. I know, Dr. Balasubramanian, you have to go on your walking endeavor, but thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your knowledge with all these people. I would definitely love to do this again at some point of time, because this was not enough, but we people got a glimpse of what possibilities are out there. And whoever wants to reach out to him, his email is available on MUSC website, which is Medical University of South Carolina. And he also runs an institute called PranaScience Institute, which teaches people on breathing. I will share all the links in the description below.
But thank you
Okay.
so much, Dr. Balasubramanian.
You're very welcome, Aditya. It's a great pleasure speaking
Yeah,
with you.
I'll be in touch. Yes.
And thank you all, listeners. I enjoyed talking.